Snowpiercer is the new TV reboot of the dystopian sci-fi film also based on the French graphic novel. It follows passengers of a massive, perpetually moving train that traverses the globe with the remnants of humanity after a frozen wasteland in a post-apocalypse. Just your everyday kind of satire. I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor at Gold Review. I'm here with Oscar winner Jennifer Connelly, who stars as Melanie Cavill. Jennifer, what's the best way to describe your character for someone who has lived under a rock and never heard of the show?
Well, what we know when we first meet her is she's head of hospitality, which means she's responsible, as she says in her words, for smooth relations on the train. Kind of like a concierge problem solver, but we suspect that she is maybe up to more than just that, and then discover quite soon that she is, in fact. And I think she's a surprising character. To me, I thought she was quite a challenging character at times. And she has an interesting journey. I think where she's not the person that we think she is when we first meet her.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to put it. As the voice of the train and an A-list passenger as well, and so much more, do you think she's ultimately a force of good or a force of evil, or would you rather not say?
That's difficult. I think that she is capable of both. I think she certainly is doing something fighting for something that she really believes in. And I think that she believes that it's the right thing, that the ultimate goal that she's fighting for is a really important and worthy goal. I think along the way, the means are very questionable. And for sure, she does some morally reprehensible thwe
Yeah. You know what's funny? On a show like yours, there's, any show in this genre, back in the day, we can never imagine what a post-apocalyptic world might look like. And we're all currently, self-isolating or socially distancing in a global pandemic. And I just wonder if that ever occurs to you that you're on a dystopian TV show about a world in which things have shut down, and here we are. Those parallels are kind of slightly bizarre, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that certainly the confinement and loss are things that we're all experiencing. Like everyone on Snowpiercer is, they've had to leave their communities, say goodbye to their communities, the people that they loved, and their work, their lives that they always knew, the planet itself. And here we all are, separated from people that we love and not able to go and live the lives we've always loved. It is strange. I didn't quite anticipate I don't think anyone being in this position.
No. So going back to the beginning, how did you become involved in the series? Because it's got a very interesting cast, and I'll be speaking to quite a few of you, and I'm always curious to know how you land in a show like Snowpiercer.
Originally, there was another iteration of it. The first iteration was brought to me by Scott Derrickson, who I'd worked with before. So there was a previous version of the show and of the script. That's where I first got involved. We shot a pilot, and then they made changes after we shot the pilot. So by the time we came back to series, it had kind of been reimagined. So I first came to it in that iteration.
So I mean, it's no mystery that Snowpiercer did face challenges in development for a little while until it finally landed in the iteration that we see now on TNT. Is that difficult to navigate when you've got lots of other projects and other things going on in your life, to wait for the show to finally see the light of day?
No, No, because the process didn't feel. I wasn't just waiting. I mean, I think I was doing other things and working, and so it didn't really feel like that. It didn't feel like that kind of a long. It does feel like it has been a long road, but I didn't feel like I was sort of, kind of in stasis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure like it's something that you're accustomed to. It happens from time to time on various projects.
Yeah, I mean things get delayed and changed and reimagined.
Yeah. So while the series is an adaptation, obviously it's really important for it to stand on its own as well as its own work. So did you purposely stay away from the source material so you could develop the character yourself independently, or were you really interested to see what the other versions of this piece and how they were done?
I was really interested. I mean, I had seen the movie, but I went back and watched it again, and I'm a fan of the film and the performances in the film. And I went back and looked at the graphic novels, which I hadn't done before. So I was very interested in that material, but my character isn't in either the film or the graphic novel, so she only exists in this version. So while I referenced those, I didn't base my character on anything in them.
So then what do you do as an actor to kind of fill in those blanks internally? Have you given her your own backstory? Was it given to you? Did you develop them together? How did that work for Melanie?
I did give her a lot of my own backstory. I love that part of our job. I find it really fun. But in this instance, of course, I had to do it. I did it in tandem with Graham because he was always developed. We didn't have all of the scripts when we first started shooting. So there were things that were down the line. So it was a collaboration with him. I wanted to make sure I wasn't blindsided by anything, like what's coming, what do I do later? What do I learn? What am I going to learn about my character? So armed with that information, then I went ahead and filled in the blanks for myself and tried to, sort of flesh out her history.
So if you didn't really necessarily know where she was going to end up towards the end of the season, were there any scripts where you eventually kind of picked it up and thought, oh shit, this is really something? Or did it meet your expectations, or were you quite surprised?
There were, they would tell me kind of, sometimes give me hints about what was coming, but sometimes I was surprised by things. There was one later episode in particular where I kind of went, wow, that's intense. Which is fun, it was kind of fun. I have to say, it was a really different experience for me. I've never done anything like this. And it was fun for me. I look forward to getting the scripts, and like I'd get to the end of it, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen next? I was into it. I was into the whole process. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, that's a huge plus because, God, I'm sure that you've had plenty of work where you didn't necessarily feel that way. And so it's always nice to be having fun while you're working.
For sure.
So did you guys finish shooting season 2 before things started to lock down, or were you still in the middle of it?
Season 2 was not 100% complete, but very well on its way.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so that'll then obviously ramp up again once everybody goes back to work. I see. This show, the film, the graphic novel, obviously has a lot to say about class and social injustice and even climate change. A lot of really weighty issues that a lot of films and series in this genre tend to do. What would you like to see audiences take from what the show is presenting in terms of how it might resonate culturally?
Well, I think all of that said, it's also an adventure, and it's also telling this very human story through a sci-fi lens, which I think, I don't want to, talking about all of the themes, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it's just a fun, entertaining show, with interesting characters that are fun to watch with, for me, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is a page turner. Like, I finish and I want to know what's going to happen to these people next. So so there's that. And thematically, I think I do like the fact that it is those things. It is like just sort of at face value, an entertaining, fun, kind of stylish adventure. That it has, some deeper things to talk about, like, as you mentioned, social structures and, the distribution of resources in a closed system, and how they are distributed. Is it how equitable or inequitable it is? And so I think that all those themes and topics are very relevant.
Yeah. It occurs to me when I'm watching the show that it is set on a train, a fast-moving train. So you're all in close quarters and there's a lot of moving around. That's just for my small non-actor brain in terms of how I conceptualize how you're performing this. But does that actually make much of an impact in how you're all working on set and performing your roles, knowing that you're on a fast-moving train?
Not really, because I think that it's one of the, other than the fact that you have to be aware of movement, but most of the times that was done for us. There were some instances where we had to create the movement of the train when it was in more extreme circumstances. But for the most part, the cars themselves were moving as we were filming. Right. And I think in the way that you would kind of, that after you've been on an airplane for a little while, you kind of forget about the fact that you're moving around a little bit. I think after 7 years on a train, you probably take it in stride, the fact that you're moving. So we kind of, they roll the cameras and the cars would start jiggling a little bit and we'd kind of go about our business in that way.
Let's get on with it. In my opinion, I think that these days TV often affords actors, particularly women, but all actors, a lot of more interesting and nuanced roles. Do you agree that that's the case?
I think it's the case. I think certainly you have a lot more time to spend with a character and develop a character. I think that, there's a lot of great work, a lot of great writing in television, a lot of great work being done in television. I think, the way we watch content has changed. We're watching a lot more dramas, on TV more than in theaters. One can make a generalization. There are always exceptions, but more and more, and I think there are amazing opportunities, and there's been incredible work done. But I was really excited about the possibility of having a character and staying with a character and seeing what could happen with, 10 hours as opposed to, under 2. I thought that was a kind of exciting proposition and allows you to sort of explore things that you might not otherwise be able to explore, like a little bit more complexity, some more layers.
Going back in time a bit, well before Snowpiercer, in 2002, when you won the Oscar for your role in A Beautiful Mind, you said, "By some twist of fate, I have landed in this vocation that demands that I feel and that helps me to learn." I think that's what you said. So taking that a step further, what did you learn from your experience on A Beautiful Mind that you have kind of taken with you throughout your career?
Wow. It's funny, right? Because I think I think sometimes they're not the way we learn, or for me, I feel like the way I learn, they're not always like sort of big aha moments where you can say, this is the life lesson that I can pinpoint, you know. But sometimes it's just the experience of, you know, spending time, you know, for me in my job and what I do, spending time with a character who makes choices and has a point of view that's vastly different from my own, you know, and spending the time in that person's shoes, really coming to, you know, having to really deeply consider that perspective and that point of view and that person's motivations. And I mean, that's a really interesting, I can't say exactly how it impacts me and changes me, but I feel like the process of doing that and really considering other perspectives, I feel like it, you know, offers some kind of teaching.
And what about winning the Oscar itself on that night? It was a while ago now, but what's the memory that you most kind of hold dear when you think about getting up on that stage and accepting an Academy Award?
I mean, my dad was there with me, and my dad was just so proud and excited to be there, and I was so happy to have him there with me. And I don't know, I connect that a lot with my dad and that experience of being there with him and what it meant to him.
Yeah, it was a pretty special moment. Final question, because I just couldn't help myself as a fan. When we go back to the late 90s, you worked on the classic sci-fi noir thriller Dark City, which has been credited with being so influential in that genre. And as an Aussie, I was very much into it at the time, and still am. What was your highlight from playing, you know, a really archetypal femme fatale in that classic film?
Wow, I remember I was terrified that I had to sing. Yeah, it was, I thought it was really so innovative, that movie, and really interesting, had some really interesting ideas in it. I haven't gone back and watched it really since it came out, but I thought it was really visually striking and really forward thinking. I enjoyed working on it. It was kind of like, just as a spectator to see what they were creating, it was kind of, yeah, it was pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it certainly was.
And I got to spend time in Australia, which was, you know, kind of fabulous too.
That can't hurt. And it's funny that all these years later, you're in another dystopian, futuristic sci-fi noir thriller, and we have lots to look forward to as that airs on TNT. And Jennifer, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Now, everyone go to rollderby.com, make your predictions, and before you go, click subscribe. We have lots of chats with contenders just like Jennifer.